before his career, I've seen a lot of stuff online of talking about, is Tyler part of the new big three?
Yes, Tyler is number 3.
I'm not ready to go there yet. I think
he's ahead of J. Cole, baby. Let's go. I'm there. I'm there.
No,
he is. They came out during the same time, too, so you can't even say that, he's too new. No. He's ahead.
I don't think he's ahead of J. Cole.
Yes.
I think Tyler just has a younger audience than someone like J. Cole, and the younger audience are the ones making the TikToks and the Twitter videos. Good afternoon, beautiful people. This is another episode of Album Mode. We review a new album every single week. We look at the lyrics, the production, the overall aesthetic of the album, how the album fits into the context of that artist's career. For everyone watching on YouTube, hit that like button and leave us a comment. Let us know how wrong we always are. My name is Adriel Smiley, a.k.a. AdrielSmiley.com, a.k.a. Adriel Smiley Official, a.k.a. The Godfather. We're here with His Royal Highness, a.k.a. The Bunny, a.k.a. No Longer a Munch, King Grant.
A.k.a. The Winner.
Yes.
Okay, shout out to me and everybody that joined me at K1 Speed and just going through probably one of my funniest birthday parties that I've ever had. But I did win.
Home cooking. We'll call it home cooking.
Maybe. I told people, don't let me win. I said that multiple times. Don't let me win. And in the qualifying, I did come in second, so it wasn't like they were just letting me through, hopefully. But we're here. We're back. This time, it's Tyler, the Creator, CHROMAKOPIA. Tyler, the Creator, one of the most important artists of our time right now, I think. Since 2014, when Wolf came out, so 2017 when Flower Boy came out, he has pretty much been an institution in himself. He has his own aesthetic. He has his own sound. I can't remember the last time he featured on somebody's work. Usually people are coming to him, NBA Youngboy, Lil Wayne, Solange, you guys play with Cardi, like everybody, now on this album you got Doechii, Tizo Touchdown making his vaunted appearance. He just appears on everybody's album. He's like a ghost.
Yep.
There's a bunch of other people. He tried to allege that there were no features on this album, and I knew that was bullshit immediately. But Tyler, the Creator, is back. This time, CHROMAKOPIA he showed it with its own soundscape, it looked like, in the teaser. Got this militaristic vibe going on. Very interesting leading up to its actual release.
Yeah, I think the best place to start with Tyler is where we started last week about how many songs you have liked. Tyler is always an interesting artist for me because, like you said, over the past, I would say 8 years, he's really grown. Since Flower Boy in 2017 was really when everyone kind of started to treat him a little bit differently, I would say. And even though I wouldn't say I'm the biggest Tyler Creator fan, like I'm not at the level I'm going to dress like him and buy his clothes. Like I'm still going to be my own person.
Do you have any donuts? Like the Odd Future donut shirts? Nothing
not,
like that? No, really?
And I've seen him in concert 4 times.
Wow.
And why I mentioned that is Wolf was the first album that I saw him in concert for, and I was like the lone person dressed like an individual. Everyone was in the golf wing and the donuts. And I think, in that way, I kind of think of myself as a different kind of Tyler fan because there are those people who it's like, I got to be just like Tyler. He's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I just like the music.
Okay.
I don't know him personally. I'm sure he's a great guy, but the music is what I'm here for. And when I look at my liked songs from Tyler, the Creator, I have 75 liked songs.
Okay.
And I think of his maturation to where he is now actually starting at Cherry Bomb. I know a lot of people give that credit to Flower Boy because that's when a lot of people came in. That was his first real, I think, big mainstream hit. See You Again with Kali Uchis. Currently almost 2 billion streams on Spotify. But for me, it really started at Cherry Bomb. Now, there were some misses on that project. I'm not going to lie.
Yep.
Wasn't all hits. But I think that was the beginning of him kind of changing his sound and becoming this different kind of artist. How many songs do you have liked from Tyler on Spotify?
I was just looking at that. I have 59. But I would say, here's the thing. I have known of Tyler, the Creator since, I want to say, Loiter Squad days. So that's like 2013? 20, maybe even before that.
Yeah, I would say before that, but why I mention those early days is because Tyler is someone who I think everyone has known of for a long time, and listening to his music is more of a new thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I knew of him back then. I listened to Bastard. Odd Toddler is probably one of my favorite Tyler the Creator songs. And I've heard all of his other music, right? And I think it was just like I hadn't listened to it on Spotify. So on Spotify, I look like a new blood.
You're fine when you're 59.
Right.
You don't gotta explain yourself.
No, I have to. Okay, I'm different than all these young people coming into all these new young people coming into the Tyler Creator sphere. But yeah, so I'm a big Tyler Creator fan. I think that it was really interesting watch him develop. This is like a story of artist development.
Yeah.
Really from the Bastard days through Wolf days, Cherry Bomb, to where it is right now is like I can't really think of an artist that has had that much growth, and also the difference in critical acclaim from this different type of people. Because when he was first coming out, there was critical acclaim in this like dark edgelord, edge rappy sphere, backpacker sphere, and now it's like mainstream critical acclaim, Ivory Tower critical acclaim that he now gets. So it's different now.
I think there's a few people that I think of with him in terms of their growth and changes in artists. And why I want to compare him to these people is because, you know, the difference I think in Goblin to Cherry Bomb is him kind of growing up. I think Goblin was a lot of that kind of like shock factor. I'm just going against the mainstream. It was a big part of Odd Future in that time.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, going against the mainstream, at a certain point, it's like, okay, let me just actually make good music. Going against the mainstream is fun, but let me actually just try and make good music. And Childish Gambino and Kid Cudi are the two that I think of in terms of their maturation and where they ended up. This is his 8th studio album.
Isn't that crazy?
And his first since 2021. That's when Call Me When You Get Lost.
Yeah.
Call Me If You Get Lost came out. We reviewed Call Me If You Get Lost. This is in June of 2021. Do you remember the score that you gave it?
I think I gave it an 8.5.
That's correct. You gave it an 8.5. I gave it a 9. And then Estate Sale. Remember what you gave the Estate Sale? So this is the deluxe of Call Me If You Get Lost.
I think I gave it an 8.
You gave it an 8 and I gave it a 7.
Look at me. Look, I remember.
Yeah, great memory. And this is the most, I think, unique rollout he's had for a project. You know, we kind of got the announcement from this project from a trailer. You know, No ID was the lead single. Well, that's what I was calling it. Turned out it's actually NOID. Did you know that it was NOID at the time? Because I was calling it No ID.
No, I thought it was NOID. I just thought it was NOID. I'm surprised to hear that you said No idea. I'm like, where did you even get that idea from?
Well, I think that's kind of the difference in cultural age between us, because No ID, a legendary producer in hip hop.
I'm aware.
A legendary phrase in hip hop. I think there's a group of people who definitely saw that and thought, because NOID is not a phrase people say.
Right.
So to think that it's NOID is like, you know, I guess maybe not on my algorithm. Maybe y'all are saying that in these different corners of the internet, but NOID is not a word I've heard people say in real life. So that was a lead single. And then 5 days later, Thought I Was Dead came out. I was avoiding all of these singles, even St. Chroma when that came out too. I was avoiding all of that. I'm like, let me hear the album in full. The Tyler hype was kind of bubbling up just from the visuals and the singles. And I was like, we're going too far.
He was also on a timer. He's on the internal 2 hour. He's on the internal 1 album every 2 years timer. So everybody that's a Tyler the Creator fan that I knew was already talking about there's probably going to be a new Tyler the Creator album this year.
Well, he's broken that, and that's kind of what I'm referencing. Is like the last album was 2021, so the whole album every 2 years thing. This is against that. Like that whole idea is null and void here. And I think that the hype was really building from these promos, the trailers, the songs, where people were starting to call this a classic before the album even dropped.
I know.
And I was like, I love Tyler. Listen, Tyler has taken a lot of my money over the years, but I think we need to really, really temper it down. And why I'm mentioning that is because he put out this tweet saying, listen to it in full, no expectations. And I think that, you know, him saying that almost was too little too late. Everyone had already decided, nope, it's
It's
Tyler. It's a classic, best album of the year. We've already decided. And I think that's an interesting place for an artist like Tyler to be, because he's already left of center when it comes to hip hop or just pop music in general. And when an artist is already not, quote unquote, the mainstream in terms of sound, anything they do is going to be seen as artistically amazing.
Yeah, I think to a certain group of people, which I would consider teenagers to young 20-somethings to even mid 20-somethings, Tyler, Creator is their Kanye.
Yep.
Right? His ability to grab so many different genres, soul, hip hop, R&B, pop music, then he's grabbing, even on this album, CHROMAKOPIA, like marching bands and pulling it into one cohesive sound somehow, making it a cohesive sound, is kind of like what Kanye used to do with like, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, or even 808s and Heartbreaks, where it's just like a lot of sounds that you never would have considered, soundscapes you never really heard anybody else do, a lot of this stuff nobody else attempts.
Yep.
Right? That sounds very Kanye-like, right? So for a lot of people, he is like their Kanye figure. He's making music that doesn't sound like anybody else. People, when they show up on his music, it could just be one line, Like there's that song near the end, I think it's on Tomorrow or Take Your Mask Off, where Baby Keem just says, huh, that's it.
Yep.
That's all Baby Keem does. And then it reminds me of like All of the Lights, where Kanye had like Elton John, Drake, Rihanna, literally just saying All of the Lights multiple times, and he layered them on top of each other. And that was their contribution. They even get credited.
Yep.
Right? So Tyler, Creator, to me, so when you're talking about like, people are calling it instant classic and like people are already on top of it, blah, 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 I'm like, yeah, that's how people used to treat Kanye West's music.
I'm happy you brought up Kanye, because it's almost like you're reading off my notes. That is where I wanted to lead us before I actually read what Tyler said about the project. Is Tyler is a product of the internet in a complete different way. You brought up Loiter Squad, which a lot of people knew him from, more than 10 years ago. And I think about the reaction to this album is a product of the internet in a way that Kanye didn't have. And the album I think about is 808s and Heartbreaks. Now, there's some, I guess, through line in terms of themes and the lyrics between that album and this album. But anyone's 808s and Heartbreaks, if you were there at that time, not loved when that album came out. That album was almost hated immediately. And to hear how we talk about that album, more than a decade later, you wouldn't believe that this album was hated, so strongly.
A lot of revisionist history coming from a lot of different people out there.
And I think that, kind of hate for that album right away comes from there not being the huge internet presence. I think there's almost an idea of, we have to love this person. Oh, similar to Kendrick, where, okay, he's a genius, so whatever way he chooses to go, we're riding with him. I think the internet, if it was around in 2008, 808 and Heartbreaks would have had, I think, a similar reaction.
Me too, because he was coming off of late registration.
Graduation.
College dropout. So it's kind of hard to not have ardent fandom after something like that.
And I think, the single Love Lockdown was, to me, probably one of the weakest songs on the project. And to see how we talk about that project now, like I have that project on vinyl. It was one of my favorite albums of all time. I think the idea of how we view a project before it even comes out, this is one of the test case for that in terms of how you hear an album.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have decided before the album's even heard, it's like, oh, yep, this is it. And I think this album has a lot of things to back that up, but I think this is probably one of the least objective listens of a project that I think I've heard it in years, because everyone has just decided, okay, this is a classic before anything happens.
That's why we're here.
We're here to keep it real.
Yeah.
He said this at listening party at the Intuit Dome, which was, the day before the project came out. He said, the album has turned into me taking a bunch of shit my mom told me as a kid. Now that I'm 33, all of that stuff is like, oh, that's what the fuck she was talking about. Oh, I'm not the guy that I was at 20. Like, oh shit, people are getting older. Folks having kids and families, and all I got is a new Ferrari. And it does feel kind of weird. I'm gaining weight. I've got gray hair on my chest. Life is lifing. I don't know. I just wanted to kind of just write about stuff that I think about when I'm dolo, and I'm happy I got the chance to experience it in my hometown. I think that is kind of the best way to frame this project as we head into it. And let's start right at the top. Saint Chroma as an intro. How did you feel about that?
I love that song. I think that it was something that set the tone almost like in a mistake way for the rest of the album, because Saint Chroma is such a militaristic vibe. I think Tyler has had a militaristic strain throughout his music, all the way to Flower Boy when he was doing the music video on the airship.
Yep.
Right?
Hey, back to Cherry Bomb too, yeah.
Yeah, so he's always had this militaristic element throughout, like, through line through all of his music. And Saint Chroma was, like, I think where it came to the fruition, like, this is the biggest flourish of it, where it's like, you know, you had people marching, the music video, you could see him, like, pointing at people to go in a specific direction. Everybody's wearing a uniform. So I love the production on that. I love that marching element. I mentioned at the very, very top, there's like a marching band element to this album overall in the production. But this one was like, the militarism is in there. We're going to be marching. We're going to be chanting. He's like whispering, almost like how, like, you know, soldiers are not really supposed to speak when they're marching. You whisper to other people. So I thought that was cool. I do think he is really good at intros. Like he knows how to make an appearance, make it dramatic. You know, when the very end of that song comes in, it's like, you know, that synth that's like almost like a race car, right?
Yep.
And then also the drums are very dramatic too. So I think that song in particular, when it comes to production, I was like, here we go again. Here we go again. Here we go again. We're about to dive right back into the world that Tyler the Creator is about to create.
And I think this album, the songs bleed into each other probably better than any album he's made before. This is an album where, like, that happens a lot. Call Me If You Get Lost had a bit of that because it had that mixtape vibe, DJ drama all over it. But this is a project where right from the beginning, it kind of bleeds in. And it bleeds in a way where, you know, the end of Saint Chroma is a lot of keys and chords and a lot slower. And then Rah Tah Tah is just a banger from the beginning.
Yeah.
And to somehow make those two blend, it's like, that's a very Tyler Creator thing of like, we can go from slow to bringing up the pace, and it somehow feels like it just blends together. Saint Chroma, why I want to talk about that one first is, that was a song I thought of when listening to this album like the third or fourth time, is how much of these songs are people going to listen to on their own? I think Tyler has been a great album artist.
Me too.
And this is, I think, another one in that. But a lot of these songs, I think of them like, will people be going to these songs individually? Like, how much of that is on here? And that's why I had that whole intro about objectivity in a project, is usually people aren't, you know, as high on a project if they don't have those songs to go back to. Usually everyone wants those songs that have that sticky feeling to go back to, they can run back to it. And this album doesn't feel like it has as many of those. And I think Saint Chroma, I like Saint Chroma a lot as well, but that's what I thought of as like, how often will someone just go straight to Saint Chroma and play that on their own? Of course, in the comments, let us know, but that I think is a quality that this album, it remains to be seen. Remains to be seen how much it has of that. But
Sticky is one song that is like that, though. I would say that's the biggest one.
Sticky, I saw someone on Twitter saying, you know, don't tell me Sticky is your favorite song from the Tyler project because everyone is saying that. And I'm like, nothing's wrong with that being someone's favorite song from the project. That is an absolute hit from here, like, automatically.
Yeah.
But that's why I thought of it. Sticky is the 8th song on here.
Yeah.
And I think that's the main one that has that quality. But I feel like, you know, for an album that's already been revered so greatly after 24 hours of us
yes, we're
recording
reviewing this on Tuesday when it came out on Monday, by the way.
Yeah, I think for an album that's already been rated so highly, 24 hours, for it to be really one song that has that feeling is pretty rare. Usually you won't rate an album this highly and have kind of one song that is quote unquote sticky that stands out. So again, I want to know how this album ages. This is going to be one I think when we do our year in review, we'll kind of see how people talk about this album going forward. But that's something that stood out to me of like, you know, even only, again, it's only been a day. So, you know, let's have some patience.
Yeah.
But a day in, everyone's naming this one song as a song they're going back to. When I feel like, I think personally there's more, but usually we don't love an album with only one song like that.
Yeah, I think the reason why people are latching onto Sticky so much is because it's the most simple song out of all the songs that he's made. Just like with Igor, with Earthquake.
Yeah.
You know, Are We Still Friends was another one that people really latched onto. But those are the most simplistic, and simplistic, again, Welcome to the Album One podcast where we say simplistic is not bad.
Yeah.
Simplistic is just a theme, just like a way for a song to be. I think it's the most simplistic. Also has Glorilla, Sexy Red, and Lil Wayne on it. So it's a lot of things that people, not even from the Tyler verse, can latch onto.
Familiar with.
Yeah, right? So I think that's the reason. Because if you do a song like Thought I Was Dead, you know, with those really weird but cool horns, right? These really like dreary horns kind of reminds me, like more marching band, like Southern marching band stuff, right? That is not as sticky, literally as sticky, right? Like it's more unorthodox, you know, the drums are more unorthodox, right? So I think when it comes to latching onto songs, that's what happens with Tyler the Creator's music now is like the vast majority of people try to find like the one or two songs that are simpler that they can grip onto. Otherwise, you kind of have to take the entire album as a unit. Like he is really somebody that likes doing that because he loves his music. He makes everything from scratch. Literally, he's the person that...
I don't know from scratch. There's a lot of sampling on this project.
From scratch. But he's the person...
He produces.
Yeah, he's the producer. He's a composer. He's the writer. He raps everything. You know what I mean? So that's when we talked about that, like when 21 Savage and Metro Boomin do work together. Like you're able to do these weird and unorthodox things or off-kilter things because you're only working with one dude. Yeah. Right? One producer. For him, it's just him. And then he's pulling in other people to work with him, but it's his work.
This album feels like a mash of all of his sounds into one project. Rah Tah Tah has this, like, I don't even want to call it, like, kind of like a pop sound. It really reminds me of somebody beatboxing, but that almost like pop snare is all over this project. And that to me is what I think of as like a Tyler the Creator type of beat. Rah Tah Tah. Like I can't really see anyone else having a beat like this, rapping on a beat like this. Right. The only other person I can think of, and it's crazy they've never done a song together, because again, I think of them as like really very close in terms of their music, is Donald Glover, Childish Gambino.
Yeah, that's true.
Like this really gives me like camp era Childish Gambino.
They have a song together on this album. He's featured on one of them. He does, yeah. I'm serious.
Did I miss that?
I think so. I forgot. Hold on, I'm trying to.
I don't see him. I don't see him in the features list.
Oh, dude, I wrote it down because I'm like, wait, that's Donald Glover, bro.
Let's hear it.
So Childish Gambino's on the interlude, right? For I Killed You.
Okay, yeah.
And he's on the outro. So there is very slight cross-pollination, but not in the way that you're talking about, where it's like on verses or doing the hooks together and stuff like that.
At least there's something, because I do think they have a way where their worlds can kind of coincide.
Yeah.
We talked about your boy earlier, Tito Touchdown. And
I thought you were going to say Yeet. I'm like, wait, what?
Your boy
Tyler the Creator likes Yeet, though.
Yeah, a lot of people like Yeet.
Yeah, he likes Yeet's music.
A lot of people like Yeet. Tito Touchdown, he appears again. He always finds a way to show up on these projects.
How?
But the songs that he's on are always good.
Yeah.
And I'm just like...
But his music is not that great, though.
That's the kind of weird thing, is like, I don't know how it always works out that the song he shows up on are always good. Yeah. But Darling I
love that song, Darling I.
One of my favorite songs production-wise. On here, it has that same like kind of pop snare that is on Rah Tah Tah. But I think the keys on here is, again, this is like Tyler the Creator's sound through and through. Like Flower Boy chords all over this.
Here's my thing with that. I do love Darling I, but I think that this was the first time where I heard of the Tyler the Creator song in a while, probably the past since Flower Boy, where I'm like, I've heard this song already. And that is something that you don't really say about Tyler the Creator's music. But Darling I was like, this song exists in the catalog already.
This album is a few moments like that. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's why I kind of said it's like all of his sounds kind of coming together. And when earlier we said it's cohesive sound, I disagree with that. Like, I don't think this album is really cohesive at all. But I think why it feels like an album in that way is because he's grabbing from all his sounds. Yeah. All the sounds that he kind of does and no one else does, he's grabbing from all those. But you're right. We have heard Darling I before in some way, shape, or form.
So yeah, I think when it comes to the production, that's my like only criticism. I think, or one of like two criticisms where I'm like, he is now grabbing into the bag. Tyler the Creator was very much of like trying to reach into the universe and figure out something that like looked cool, sounded cool, in multiple ways. This album was the first time since Flower Boy where I felt like he went backwards. He went backwards and was starting. I know.
How dare you say anything bad about Tyler the Creator?
Like, this is the 1st time
you're canceled.
I'm like, I can never wear a sweater vest ever again.
You can never wear anything ever again.
No pastels ever.
Never.
I'm done on pastels.
No pastels, no loafers.
But yeah, so that and Hey Jane.
Mm-hmm.
Hey Jane is like that too.
Judge Judy is
and
like
Judge
that too.
Judy, yeah. So like there's that's like 3 songs in a row actually we're talking about. So there is a space where I feel like there is a regression, which is rare. Like this is something you don't say about Tyler the Creator. So being able to see that and like it was obvious. Made like I was like, oh wow. So like I don't want to say he's running out of ideas, but he wasn't as adventurous as he could have been. To the point of like I can tell like you went back to the grab bag to get something out of it.
And it's funny that you say that because that's why I had this whole thing at the beginning about how people are viewing Tyler the Creator and when they're hopping in is because I think that I felt like that before with Tyler, but I just like his sound.
Yeah.
I think, the chords that he chooses to play are the chords that I like. So I don't personally have a problem with it. But I think because, to me, Call Me If You Get Lost was a lot of people jumping in point to becoming like a hardcore Tyler fan.
Right.
A lot of people liked Igor for sure, but there was a crowd that was like, Igor's not for me. There was that group that was like, not my style.
Because he was jumping away from hip hop in a way that hip hop fans were like, what is this? I don't understand.
And I think as well, that was, I think, his biggest selling album at that point.
Yeah.
But he had jumped away from hip hop a few times before on albums. So I feel like, depending on where you come into Tyler, are these sounds as familiar to you as they are to us? And so to maybe a newer Tyler fan who Call Me If You Get Lost is kind of your first Tyler album you listen to more than once, maybe this is not that familiar to you like it is to us. Judge Judy, like you said, that same kind of style that we've seen from him. But I like the pace on that. And the one thing I really like is those rolling keys that kind of come in and then come out at certain points. He does that a lot. He's talked about it in interviews of having a certain part that, comes in once and then we don't hear it for a long time and then it comes in again. So I like that. But my favorite production on here is Tomorrow.
I like that song.
And I, for the life of me, I cannot figure out what that song sounds like, but it really reminds me of another song. Please, comment section, do the math for me. Let me know. But it really reminds me of like an old school hip hop song that I can't put my finger on. But I like that song a lot.
Yeah, I like that song too. One of the major things I liked about it was it was a really sad guitar-led song, which is kind of like something Tyler the Creator doesn't do in his music.
Yep.
Like these really like acoustic guitar-led, but also sad and dark. Sad and dark is like, that's kind of new for him. And that's what I thought most of this album was going to be like because of the aesthetic of like the monochrome.
Yep.
It was like almost sepia tone.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is going to be dark and it's going to be sad.
It kind of is a more sad for him. Yeah.
It is sad, but it's not really dark. But this was one of the songs where I was like, oh, it's dark and sad. And it's by a guitar, which is new for him. And it almost sounded, it was bordering on a rock song, which he has a couple of songs that are like that.
Yeah.
So I was intrigued by Tomorrow a lot. I like Tomorrow. I'm not sure what hip hop song it sounds like though. I think we're gonna have to rely on the comments.
Yes, comment section. Please help us out. What thing about Tomorrow, and I think a lot of Tyler's music is kind of like this. Is I think some of these songs, production wise, if it wasn't a Tyler song, you wouldn't know this was a rap song.
True.
And I think that has been kind of part of his MO. Not Call Me If You Get Lost as much, but Flower Boy a little bit. Kind of Igor as well. And then this project these aren't necessarily rap beats or hip hop beats. And he's rapping on them as if they are hip hop beats. And there's a clip that's going around online where Rick Rubin talks about the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And that was their formula for their success was they were making funk music and rapping over it. And that was kind of, their formula for a lot of their big songs before Under the Bridge and things that came after that. And I think Tyler's formula is something similar where this production isn't necessarily hip hop. Because we've mentioned it before, his singing voice isn't the greatest.
Yeah.
But
it works For some songs.
It works for
Especially
some songs.
Like Him, it really works.
It works for some songs, but I think that is the one thing that I would say production-wise I'm not in love with this project, is I think there's a lot of times when it's like you clearly have access to all these great vocalists. Daniel Caesar's on here a few times.
Yeah.
Tizo Touchdown's on here, Childish Gambino as well. That it's like, I know this is your idea and your tone is part of the idea, but I think there's some of these songs that is like, if you just had an actual singer on this,
Yeah, it would be better.
it would be better, because one collaborator that he doesn't really miss with is Lil Wayne. We talked about Sticky a little bit. Like, him and Lil Wayne have not missed on any of their collaborations.
All the way back to Flower Boy.
Back to Cherry Bomb, man. It's before
I went Cherry Bomb. That's true.
And
I haven't listened to Cherry Bomb a lot, dude.
Well, again, this is where I saw him in concert for a lot of these projects.
Okay.
So that's why they're really stuck in my mind. But I was telling Chris beforehand, Wolf was the first time I saw Tyler, and that was a tour he was touring with A$AP Rocky, who I went to see more primarily. And that's when I was like, okay, Tyler, I'm more a fan of him from seeing him live. I like the energy he had on stage. But Cherry Bomb was the album for me where I became more a fan of his because of his collaboration with Lil Wayne. And his collab with Lil Wayne is just Lil Wayne rapping. Like, it's not really as much them together. And seeing that side of Lil Wayne on the Tyler project, I was like, never thought of this in Tyler at all. I never really thought he had that in him to kind of bring out this side of Lil Wayne. And ever since, we've seen Lil Wayne kind of smash every Tyler song he gets onto.
Yeah.
But who do you think actually has the best feature on this project?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that it might be Doechii. I like Doechii on Balloon. Balloon in general is one of my favorite songs because it's so weird. Like, it could have been on the Charlie XCX album, which
okay, I can kind of see that.
It has this really weird electronic, which I don't associate with any Tyler project at all. So I think that style of production, and then also Doechii's Doechii's ability to rap on many different styles of production is really evident. But her ability to also do the Nicki Minaj monster voice,
yes,
is also something that works well for her. Doechii is a chameleon. I think I said this when I did her review that I can't remember the name of right now, for her latest mixtape / album, where I felt like she was emulating a lot of artists, but now she is able to kind of dispense them like a tool. And I think on Balloon is one of those elements where I felt like she's dispensing different voices, huffing in the background. I'm gonna air it out, it's like a queef. I'm gonna let it air it out, even funny lyrics. So I think that was my favorite feature.
I'm also choosing a woman for the best feature. I think it's Glorilla, man. I know that we're drinking the Glorilla Kool-Aid, one of the best rap albums of the year, in my opinion, but her voice is just so distinct on that project. As soon as she comes in, it is like the energy changes. And it's like, okay, this is a banger now. Like, the whole intro, a minute or so before she gets on the project, whole different vibe. The second she starts speaking, it's like, nope, we're shaking ass now. So Glorilla is the one for me that I'm like, yeah, I think she's kind of being underutilized in a lot of ways.
Okay.
Because her voice is so distinct in a way we haven't seen in rap in a long time. And I said this on her review is, I think why she's been so successful and why she's done so well is, her voice isn't like a Doechii or a Doja Cat that is more soft and squeaky and lighter. Her voice is sometimes deeper than Tyler's.
Yeah.
And I think having a woman have a voice like that and kind of lean into a voice like that, we really haven't seen kind of in the mainstream at all. So for me, Glorilla, her voice stands out on this project where if you weren't aware of some of the voices on here and you heard her rap, you're like, who the hell is rapping like that on this project? So for me, it's her. I'm ready to get to lyrics. Do you have anything else for production that you want to talk about?
No, I think, it would be a combo. It's I Thought I Was Dead. I think I mentioned the militaristic aspects of Tyler, the Creator's everything, but that's part of on the song in particular. There is very few hooks on this album, and not very many of them are sticky. I would say that's another problem. I would say his music used to be a lot more catchy.
Yes.
His music used to be a lot more catchy. But I would say I Thought I Was Dead, in between those horns, he's I don't want to be found, I don't want to be down, I don't want to be found, I don't want to be down. So that was probably one of the better moments when, even though it's a bridge, those were one of the more memorable moments for me because I'm like, some of the lyrics are sticking out in just like a interesting way. The other lyrics that he has are very like deep and profound. He's thinking about his life and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But those are, you have to dig in. This was one of those lyrics that it was like, okay, like it's on the surface, like something you can grab onto, which was not really a theme of this album.
Yeah, I think that song I like a lot. Obviously, I'm a huge Schoolboy Q fan, a huge Santa Gold fan as well. But that was one of the songs when I was like, this is what I mean of like, are people going to listen to that song on its own?
Right.
Are people going to run to that track and like play that on the aux when they're with their friends? I don't think so. But of course, comments, let me know if I'm wrong. He talks about his mom at his release party of the things that she said to him. And
she's all over this
project on Hey Jane. Her intro that says, always, always, always wear a condom.
Yeah.
And I think that as intro to Hey Jane, of course, when you know what Hey Jane is about.
What's it about though? What's Hey Jane about?
Are you really asking or like
Hey Jane, I mean, I want to make sure for the listener so the listener knows.
Well, Hey Jane to me sounds like the idea of a pregnancy scare.
Yeah.
And trying to avoid that, having that in the past and not having that going forward. I think a lot of this album, we probably get to know Tyler in a way we haven't on any other project. And I think that to me, in terms of his growth lyrically, that's really what I've been focusing on here because I feel like there's like 5 songs I could highlight for lyrics.
Yeah.
Even though I'm only going to highlight 2. But I think a big part of this I realized with Tyler is like, for the longest time, he was not trying to, highlight what he was saying in his lyrics.
Yeah.
I think the production and the aesthetic was kind of the dressing over the lyrics as to kind of hide what he's really thinking and really feeling. I think there's still a lot of that on this project. I don't think that's changed for real. But I think this is the closest he's come to kind of making it. And not say the estate sale was probably the biggest example of him like actually, speaking his mind in a way that was clear. But I think this album was kind of the next step in that maturation of, I'm gonna let you guys know how I'm feeling, how I've been feeling. In verse 1, he says, "Hey Jane, we got the news, and I ain't know what to do. I didn't panic, I was comforting you, still in shock, but damn, the late response, is this really true? If it was bound to happen to me, I'm lucky it's you. Hey Jane, your hair long and your legs long, and we can both relate to the fact that our dad's gone. Couple good qualities on you, you can pass on. You're not dumb, and your face good, and your head strong. Look, hey Jane, I know my mom will be excited as hell. I know your mom will be excited as well. But people talk, so let's pretend we ain't got no one to tell. I know our exes want to see us in hell. This ain't about them." This whole song is kind of a song that we've seen bits and parts of in hip hop for sure. Like, I really brought back to Brenda Had a Baby, which is obviously like, a step further than the pregnancy scare, of course. But I thought of a song like this where I'm like, why aren't there way more songs like this, in music? Like, essentially, this is almost an abortion song.
Yeah.
And so I think that is probably why there's not a song on every project. But this is something that I feel like almost everyone goes through. Growing up, dating, having that pregnancy scare, that 4 or 5 days of like, do I have to drop out and be a father? Like, I think everyone has had that moment. And, to see this on his 8th album that he gets into this, we're talking about maturation from him. Like, this is something that I don't know if Tyler is the artist I would have guessed to be the one to make a whole song about this in this way. But I think it is important that he's kind of the one mentioning this, because there's a bunch of other songs on here where he talks about his sexuality and his struggles with it and trusting people. And I think that, this song has such an apprehension from him of like, I don't want this to happen again. And I think there are a certain group of men in particular who have this like fear of getting someone pregnant. And there's also the group of men who don't have that fear. Nick Cannon, Future, you know who you are. But I think that him speaking to that group of men who like, this is a fear that sticks in their mind, whoever they're involved with sexually, dating seriously, casually. I've always talked about showing the kind of nuances of romance and relationships in music. This is another version of that where the bigger picture of the pregnancy scare is nuanced in itself because we don't hear that many songs about it. But the nuance of the pregnancy scare of, no, I'm terrified. Like, I do not want this to happen again, ever. So I like the song for that reason.
Yeah, I think that Tyler is going through a lot of, I think it like a feeling of like inadequacy is probably the best way to describe his lyrics, because he is really contemplating being 33. Like, that's a big deal for him.
Yeah.
You know, being 33, okay. You would think he would have these thoughts at 30, because it's like a, you know, every 10-year you know, you go up
Milestone,
yeah, you go up a number. But he's really going into this, even on a song like Tomorrow, where he's like, not even just thinking about himself, but even his mom. He's like, my mother hands don't look the same. These jet black strands are turning gray. I'm gaining weight. I'd rather rest. The thought of children, it brings me stress because time is changing. But don't you wait on me. But don't you wait on me. Don't you wait on me. This is on Tomorrow, right? So he is even just like he's thinking about his mom, how your mom is getting older, how he is getting older. The jet black strands are turning gray. And even earlier in the intro, this is by Bonita Smith. Shout out Bonita Smith. It's like, nigga, I'm getting old. I need a grandchild, please. Just one, please. All I need is one. We need a little tie walking around here, okay? We need a little Doechii booty running around here, okay? So there's even him like feeling about getting old, but he's also dealing with the pressures of his mother getting old, right? And having to deal with like, should I have that child that he is talking about? Or, you know, what else am I dealing with in my life that can fill the void, right? And he does mention that on other songs. I feel like I'm going through all my songs right now. But he mentions that on, actually, this is also on Tomorrow. So Tomorrow's a treasure trove for me, where he's basically like, my Brody had another baby that's like number 2. My homegirl, her not tied. She's like 32. They share pictures of these moments. Shit is really cute. All I got is photos of my Rari, some silly suits. I'll flip the switch and finally settle down, or go the other way, keep my panties down. This reminds me of 808s and Heartbreaks, Kanye West, where he literally said almost the exact same thing. It was like, my homie showed me pictures of his kids, and then all I can show was pictures of these cribs. And then there's other lyrics I don't fully remember. But it was like the same shit. He's feeling
Welcome to Heartbreak.
Yeah, he's feeling Welcome to Heartbreak, right? And I'm like, damn, he's really going through it. But that also furthers my Kanye example that I was saying. Like, he's kind of like a Kanye for like a younger group of people right now. So I think that his feelings of inadequacy, getting older and stuff like that, is something that is the most prevalent that it's ever been in his music. Before, it was like breakups, and then after that, Call Me If You Get Lost was like, I'm done with this breakup shit. I'm, you know, going to, you know, Switzerland. I'm going to Mykonos. So, you know, feed out the toes out, people feeding me grapes and shit, right? So now he's more contemplative. And it's interesting to see in this form. Because I never, to be honest, I never thought we would get to this place with Tyler, the Creator.
I guess it is interesting because, that's why I always think about the beginning of his career, of everything with just go against the mainstream, go against the man.
Yeah.
And I think to some degree that felt like a mask. Like I think in the moment I felt that, I was like, you know, I don't think that's authentic to who he is. I think that's kind of a cover up for something else. And it's funny now, I've been saying this kind of behind the scenes a lot. I'm like, think about how often Tyler used the F word for so much of his career.
Yeah.
You know, and then on here when he talks about like struggling with sexuality and dealing with that, it's like, it's so interesting that it's like that mask was almost so much in our faces that, you know, he grew up and grew through that, again, in our faces.
Yeah.
And I think like him putting that kind of struggle in his music is something we basically really haven't seen. And I think as well, that's a part of the lyrics we're getting on here, because, you know, we've never really seen Tyler, the Creator, in a public relationship. He's rapped about being in relationships in the past.
Yeah.
But we've never really seen him in something public with someone. And I think, you know, when he talks about settling down, I think that is a part of it as well, where, you know, when Kanye did Aim to Heartbreak, Kanye was 31 years old. That was, we'll call that the pre-Amber Rose era. And I think,
Wow.
yeah, crazy times.
I know, that was so long ago, man. Holy shit.
And I think that's a big part of this is like, this is a question for anyone in general, but I think for someone like Tyler, who's of course incredibly famous, a huge public figure, it's a different equation than just settling down and being with someone.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's a part of this as well. On Judge Judy, this part is brief in verse 2, but he goes back to some old lyrics from the estate sale. Body rubs, bondage, and cream pies. We could play around in public, and these cameras now a fetish. I imagine free 4-foot massages, giving oral is my passion. You could ride my face, I don't want nothing in return. Your body count and who you fuck is not my concern.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that was obviously this huge line on Dog 2, which was, I think, the first single from Estate Sale. And so he's bringing that line back. And I like when artists do that with a line that's memorable and in a way where it's not like, oh, he's running out of bars. It kind of makes sense and fits here. And I think a lot about Tyler has been this idea of like free thinking, free spirit, which feels, again, similar to the start of his career, but somehow different from the start of his career at the same time. And what he represents, this idea of do whatever you want, man. Don't let nobody judge you. Feel however you want to feel. That is a big part of the lyrics of, you know, your body count and who you fuck is not my concern. Because there's a whole part of the internet and rap that is saying the opposite of that.
Yeah.
that it is their concern. So I appreciate Tyler taking, you know, the high road and showing some maturity in putting those lyrics again here, because I do think we need more of that sentiment in hip hop.
Yeah, we need some counter Drake energy right now. I think that there's so many things to pull from. I think that in general, this is one of Tyler's like better lyrically like dense albums.
Yep, agreed.
Really rich, a lot of shit to dig into. And this album came out on Monday. It is now Tuesday. We're talking about this. So a week from now, 3 days from now, whatever, there's going to be more people pulling out the strands and discovering, you know, different portions that we're not going to bring up, or we don't even might not even have the time to bring up.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to bring up a couple of things that I found funny.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler, the Creator, is still funny.
Yep.
Even though he's tried to escape it, being the funny person.
Has he tried to escape it?
He definitely tried to escape it. I remember even in an interview, he said he's like, I stopped doing the funny shit because I wanted to be taken really seriously as an artist.
I guess outside of the music.
Yeah.
In the music, I think he's remained funny, but I think stuff like Loiter Squad and the antics in public, that he stopped. But I think the jokes in his lyrics have not gone anywhere.
Yeah, so I just want to be like, bring up like a couple of things. I brought up the Doechii line where it's like, I'm gonna air this out like a queef. I thought that, thought I was dead. He's like, 5 in the morning, I be hating on shit. 10 in the morning, 10 in the evening, I be hating on shit. 10 years later, I might change my mind. I'm a fake ass bitch. Don't kill me. I'm a hypocrite. Ain't real. Ain't really. I'm a big troll. Haha. I'm silly. Fuck you know about being better than these niggas that you hate.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You ain't good at shit. You can't feel me. Talk you a one-trick goat. I'm Billy. Shout out Papa. He for real. Don't test V. He pop for real. Had to call him like stop and chill. Look, I tries to be out the way. I like to farm with the lake. I like some truth in my space. Y'all niggas friendly and fake. That's big bro. How you gonna meet me? How you met me yesterday? So he definitely saws the humor in his music. There's even on Rah Tah Tah that I've been everybody has been referencing, which I really appreciate, where he's like, bitch, you bossing up? Yeah, no, we really bossing up. I can never ride no Hellcat, shit don't cost enough. 20,000 on it, 100,000 on it, 50,000 on it, a couple thousand on it. You moving sloppy if you get that sloppy where you sleep at. Never tell them niggas or those women where you breathe at. So I think that part where he's like, and those women, right? Like with a very just like he stops the entire song just to say that part.
Yep.
I find it very funny. So I think that he is still, you know, tapping into the humor of his music, even though this is like I would consider a pretty serious, pretty personal album. Still tapping into the humor, which I appreciate. There's more parts, but I wanted to highlight those parts. The hating part was probably one of my favorites.
Yeah.
So, so he's still tapping into the humor despite it being so personal.
And that line where he says, fuck a pronoun, I'm that nigga and that bitch.
Yeah, that's a great one. That's really good, man.
Yeah. No, he has a few that are in there.
Him being, sorry to interrupt you, but him being bisexual, he is, aware of gender dynamics in a way that somebody like, I don't know, like, I was trying to think of like somebody like I don't know, most actually just in general, just most hip hop artists are not aware of. So he's able to make those jokes like, fuck these niggas or these women.
Yep.
I'm the non-binary basically lyric that he was talking about. Like he's able to make those references that I really appreciate in hip hop because he's rapping about things other people cannot think of. Cannot approach, do not have the language, do not have the understanding. He does, and he's able to rap about those things and make it funny. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that's something that he'll kind of always have a leg up on the competition and putting those little Easter eggs in there. And I think as well, for his career, I've seen a lot of stuff online of talking about, is Tyler part of the new big three?
Yes, Tyler is number 3.
I'm not ready to go there yet. I think
he's ahead of J. Cole, baby. Let's go. I'm there. I'm there.
No,
he is. They came out during the same time too, so you can't even say that. No. Oh, he's too new. No. He's ahead.
I don't think he's ahead of J. Cole.
Yes.
I think Tyler just has a younger audience than someone like J. Cole, and the younger audience are the ones making the TikToks and the Twitter videos. I think that's all that really is. But I think that how I'm looking at it is kind of a big group of 6.
Oh.
And this group of 6, I think, you can kind of put it wherever you want to put everyone and rank them. I think to me, ranking doesn't matter in this. It's just a matter of like which base do they serve and, who are their fans. And I think that 6 to me is the big 3, Kendrick, Drake, J. Cole, Future, Travis Scott, and Tyler, the Creator.
Okay.
I think Nicki Minaj, of course, should be involved in that as well. We talked about the big 4, I think, last year on the podcast. But I think Tyler has established himself, kind of in the upper echelon of hip hop. And he was already there. We talked about it on the last 2 reviews. This project, I think, is a big part of that as well. And why I think this project establishes him there more is because I don't know how many of these songs people are going to be listening to 3 months from now.
Yeah.
I think people are going to still be bigging him up, bigging up this album, this run he's on. But of all the albums in the past 8 years, this is the one that I think people will not be listening to as much in 3 months. I think it's good enough to listen to in 3 months, but I just think that's not going to be the case. And it will be one of those things where, almost like Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, where people probably listen to 2-3 songs from that project, but they talk about the project, listen to it every day.
Yeah, this is getting a lot of Mr. Morale comparisons everywhere.
Yeah, and so I think that this establishes him in that group. I still think that he's kind of below a lot the rest of the 6 because he doesn't have that kind of big hit in a commercial radio sense.
Yeah, but his music is the most artistic, like forward than pretty much everybody else.
It's the most left of center, I would say. And I think as well, we're in an era where everyone is so homogenous, where just being left of center makes you different in that way. And I think that's kind of where I'm not saying I'm a Tyler hater. Obviously, I'm a huge Tyler fan. But I think we're almost at a point where, almost like Tito Touchdown, where you just being left of center, you get elevated. No matter the quality of the music. Because I would say, in terms of the other rappers that produce, I would say that I would put him lower on the production group than most of those guys. I would still put J. Cole ahead of him production-wise.
Come on.
I'd put Kanye ahead of him production-wise.
There's no way you can put J. Cole ahead of him.
To me, I'm like, he's getting extra points for just not being trap music.
Yeah, well,
for just not being mainstream hip-hop, which I think I agree there is a quality to that, but I think this is more of the era that we're in than the actual music itself.
Well, I think that you can, being a hip hop artist and being as popular as he is, and I don't think I'm trying to really think if he made like a trap song. Like, I think on this album, there's maybe like one?
I don't think he's ever made really a trap song.
Yeah, so the fact that he is able to achieve that, this immense success, this immense fandom, again, he has like a look. He's one of those artists that I've talked about this with like women in music versus men in music. Women have like eras and they look different every time.
Yes.
He's one of those people. He looks different every time a project comes out. So he is one of those people that I value him. His like artistry is more than just his music.
Yeah.
Right?
Visually as well.
Yeah, like everything. So I think I value him as like a whole scale artist. Where I put him above somebody like J. Cole. I really do, because like his music is like something that J. Cole could never even approach something like this, right? And then like that idea of like the aesthetics, right? He has his own particular sound and stuff like that. So that's why I rank him so highly. That's why I rate him so highly as an artist. So I think that in that scale, I'm like, yo, that's why I even could say I'm like, I think he's ahead of J. Cole in this big three, because I'm like, yo, he's just making more interesting music. The music is more interesting.
And that's why I'm calling it the era, because I think we are in an era where that's so rare. I think,
yes, that's true.
I think when I was growing up, like that was not as rare, where it was like, it being different is great, but is it actually better than this thing? And I think someone I always think of is T.I. T.I.'s music has been trap music for the entire time. And it was like someone being different didn't make their music better than T.I.'s music. You still had to be better than T.I. You weren't just going to be better than T.I. just by being different than T.I. I think in this era, being different is almost enough people to consider it better. I think Tyler's actual two of those things together of like, it's different and it's really good.
Yeah.
But I think because being different is so, like you talked about a different look. Of all the guys in the six, the only person who does a different look, tries a different look most of the time, is Drake.
Yeah, Drake.
And it's like a different haircut, a different hairstyle, but it's not as different as Tyler's doing it. So it's like usually before in different eras, in the top six, they would all have different looks.
Yeah.
Every single album. And I think we're in an era now where that's just not how things are. He is almost a throwback to the past in a sense, where it's like every album is a different look, different aesthetic, a different soundscape. I think for his career, he is kind of in that Kendrick zone where everything he's doing going forward is going to be considered genius.
Yeah, it's going to be hot shit all the
time. And I think like that, place always worries me for an artist, because I think once that gets kind of bigger than the music, at least what I've seen in history of music, that usually suffers. And my example always is Jay-Z, where he got to a place where everything was a triple entendre, even if it wasn't.
Yeah.
And, the two albums that came out after that was, Kingdom Come and Blueprint 3, which was two of his worst albums.
Yeah.
And so, even Kendrick Lamar, Mr. Morale is maybe one of his worst albums as well, where it's like, I think that space for an artist usually doesn't equal good music following that. Now, Tyler's very talented. Of course, I could be wrong. But I think when you get in that space where everything they tell you do is going to be amazing, and we see it with Kanye West as well, it's like that usually doesn't always equal good music. So I don't think Tyler's headed in that direction. I don't see any reason to think he's headed in that direction. But if I'm going off of what history has told me, once the internet, the general public says whatever sound comes out of his mouth is golden, usually that it doesn't really bode well. So I think for his career, of course, that's rarefied air to even be one of those people. So
yeah, that's true.
Him being one of those people is obviously a big plus for him. But I think in terms of how I'm thinking of the actual quality of the music, I'm worried about what that means for the quality of the music. Because I think personally, if I was going to rank this project out of all his projects, I don't know where I would rank it as a whole. I think lyrically, it's definitely up there for me.
Me too.
But I think I have, 2 or 3 projects that I would rank above this.
Me too. I think that when it comes to his career, I do agree that he isn't at a point where everybody thinks anything he drops is going to be, just like 5, not even 3, 5 flame emojis every single time.
Yeah.
I think that
6 flame emojis.
is off the charts, right? I do think that that's a dangerous spot to be in, because when you just make things, right? When you're a person who's like a creative in any way, when you get to a point where you just think your audience is like, yeah, they're gonna think this is dope no matter what, I could, sell a blank disc, something like Drake has said before.
Yeah.
And now look,
Kanye tried to do, quote unquote.
Facts. And now look where Drake is. Seriously.
Yep.
I think that Kanye. Tyler, I think that Tyler is a type of person really self-conscious about his music. I think he's one of those people that he likes to pretend he doesn't care what people say, but I am of the perception that this guy cares a ton about what anybody says. Like any review, any written review, album review, anything. He is extremely conscious of that. And I do think people, like what I said about him like being like starting to like grab like his older sounds and stuff like that, people, I'm not the only person saying that.
Yeah.
Right. And he is going to notice that. Like I just, from the way that he portrays himself and he speaks and stuff like that, he seems as like he's very aware of what people say about his music. So I think that is going to get back to him, and there might be a new shift that also happens.
I hope so. I think personally I'm just not worried because I have such a confidence in the music he does create.
Yeah.
But I've seen this, again, go wrong in hip hop and in music in general, 20 different times where once everyone decides, nope, anything he says is genius, it usually goes downhill. So I think that is my biggest worry. And then also for his career as a whole, I think this puts him in a place where everyone in music knows who he is.
Yeah, facts.
I think that like, he was already inching there before, but he's almost in this weird place where everyone knows who he is, but not everyone is listening. And I think that is my next kind of look to see how his career goes, because I think this is going to be his biggest debut of his career. 200K is what people are projecting.
But you know what's so funny about Tyler's music? It's like he keeps getting, like, he's been so critically acclaimed for so long now that anybody that listens to it is like, this is genius, this is brilliant, blah, blah, blah. But he's only now getting to the scale, like we're talking about 200,000, where there can still be people who are new and they're hearing it and they're like, oh my God, this is so amazing. I can't believe that he's doing this, and that. Is like, bro, you're late on the wave.
A lot of people are late.
You're late on the wave of it being amazing. So it's a really interesting space to be in with his music overall. How do you feel about a no skips? Do you think it's a no skips?
I don't think this is a no skips.
That's actually a thing. I think Igor was a no skips.
Yeah.
Tell Me If You Get Lost was I would say a borderline.
Yeah, borderline no skips.
Now we're at a no for no skips.
Yeah, I just think that he's almost in this space where, and to be fair, he's almost too far in his career to be in this space where it's like he has to create the things he's interested in.
Right.
And like, okay, I think this is so cool to do musically, I have to put it in the song. Where it's like, maybe this would be easier to listen to and more enjoyable for the masses if the intro was 15 seconds instead of 90 seconds.
Right.
And so I think those things make it not a no skips, where it's like, okay, let's get to the next part.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of good songs on this project.
Yeah, I think it's not a no skips too, because there are a couple of songs in the middle where I was like, I kind of heard this song before. And even though I like it, I'm like, you could skip that. And the last song, the very last song, was very skippable to me. Extremely skippable. So yeah, it's not a no skips. Is it a Vinyl Cop?
Not a Vinyl Cop for me.
Oh,
yeah, not a Vinyl Cop for me. I think of all the Tyler albums that are Vinyl Cops, this is lower on the list for me. And something I've been thinking about with this project, which is like, again, not what his job is as an artist or what he's looking for, is to me like the casual music fan, And I was talking to someone that they knew I was recording today. They're like, oh, you're recording today? Like, what are you guys talking about? I said, Tyler, the Creator album. They're like, yeah, I haven't listened to it. Haven't heard the last project either. And I was just like, that is crazy to hear.
Yeah.
And I think that there's more people like that than we realize. And I think the like music fan echo chamber that we're in is propelling him up to where he is, of like, everything's genius. We're waiting for the next project. I think there's some people who are like, that Tyler guy, right? The one who's always yelling. Like, I think that still exists. And so it's like, there's a bit of this project that is like, this project doesn't change that. Like, if you are not a Tyler fan and I show you this project, I don't see someone becoming a Tyler fan from this project. So for me, it's like, it doesn't have that quality that would make it a Vinyl Cop for me, because there are definitely songs on here that I'm like, I'm going to pick that needle up.
Yeah, so I think it's not a Vinyl Cop either, which is stunning for me. But honestly, when it comes to the score, when you hear the score that I give it, you're going to be, it'll make more sense for you. So do you want to go first, or do you want me
Let's
to go
talk
first?
about the cover. You're getting ahead of yourself there. Let's talk about the cover. I think this cover is pretty interesting because no one has any explanation on what this cover is.
Yeah, I know. You didn't even say anything either.
Nope, the hairstyle. And like, this is kind of why I back to my original point of like, everything he does is genius to everyone, because it's like, no one knows what any of this means, but it's just not what Future would do. So it's genius. And I think like that's a part of it where I like that he does something different every time, but I think this is where like, you know, a lot of people, it's kind of like in basketball where I always say like some people only started following basketball when LeBron James went to the Heat.
Yeah.
And so their context of the whole NBA is very, very skewed. Music is the same way where it's like everyone really only remembers things kind of after So Far Gone. And I'm like, we're in a different time where it's like, yeah, that's all you remember. Just someone doing something different is like, this is crazy. Where I don't know what this cover means. I don't know how this cover relates to the project. And I think the use of the mask, I think we got to be consistent on how we're treating people who wear masks. Because when Kanye wore the mask, people had a lot of problems with it, thought it was a bad cover, it was stupid. When Tyler's doing it, we're calling it genius. Let's choose a lane.
Wait, which mask? Which mask? The all black one?
The recent one, the Vulture's mask.
I think with this mask, you can actually see his face, unique haircut. There is a unique like aesthetic. I feel he's wearing like a suit and stuff like that. Doing this, there's like a thing. There's like things happening.
There's a thing.
There is no, but
you can say that for a bunch of projects. That's my point.
There's
is like,
actual things happening in the photo. Kanye West is like, I'm wearing a black hood with no holes in it. I'm just wearing a black hood.
But I think that's a matter of perception. And I'm like, Kanye's at the point in his career where we're not calling him the genius as much anymore. He's past that point. Tyler is in the prime of saying everything he does is genius. Because all you just explained was...
I'm not saying it's genius, though. No,
but I'm saying all you explained was a thing is happening.
Yeah, something is actually happening, though.
And that's what I'm saying is like a thing is happening is a low bar for us to say we like the cover and like the mask. I do like the cover. I like the lighting. I like the interesting haircut. I don't know what it means, but I like.
Do you think that's a wig or a real cut?
Oh, it's definitely a wig.
You think it's a wig? I think it's a real cut.
Oh,
because remember he was wearing that hat in that interview that was like it was going on top of his head. Yeah. Do you know what interview I'm talking about?
Yeah. I still think it's a wig, but I like this color for kind of the cinematography of it and the lighting. Yeah. But I think again the bar of no. You didn't say any of that. You just said a thing is happening. And I'm like, the bar of a thing is happening is one like, we are reaching crazy territory where everything Tyler does, we're going to love it. And I'm like, Tyler is already great. We don't need to add the sprinkle and do this whole thing we did with Kendrick. Like,
why do you hate people loving artists?
No, because
I think you just you're anti love of artists.
No, you know me. I love music. I love artists. But I think that we kind of, move the goalpost to fit the narrative of this person being a genius where it's like, they're already good. It can be not genius and this album can still be good. But it's like, I always give the example of Kendrick where Kendrick's last album, of course, took 5 years off between Damn Mr. Morales. And the talk online was, he takes so long because he's making it perfect. I'm like, up until that time, every album was not that far apart.
Yeah.
So how is all of a sudden takes long to make it great when it's his worst album? And the albums he made in a year and 2 years were all amazing. It's like we're moving the goalposts. Now that he's taken long, this is the reason why. But when he was doing albums in a year, that didn't even apply. So I'm like, this is a good cover. I like it, but we don't need to add the sprinkle of what we don't know what means because we don't know what this means. Okay. And I think the lack of meaning for this cover, I'm not losing points for it, but I just don't want us to attach a meaning that is coming out of nowhere. Okay. The cover can just be nice. It looks cool, a cool color, a cool aesthetic, and leave it at that.
Okay. How are you feeling about your score for CHROMAKOPIA?
Tyler, the creator of CHROMAKOPIA, his 8th studio album. This is a 7.5 to me. Okay. I like this project a lot.
That's a little bit low for Tyler.
I don't know. He got 7 from me before. I had 7 from you before as well. Last project you gave him a 7. I gave him an 8.
I thought I gave him a.
You gave me. I gave him a 7.
See?
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
The last project I gave him a 9. So he'll live. He'll live. But this project is good. I do think that this project is one of those albums that is good as an album more than as individual singles.
I agree.
And I'm kind of giving it more credit for that. This is album mode. This is not single mode. It's not EP mode. This is not 2-pack mode. So I like that he made a project that kind of lives as a project. He has not been a single artist for most of his career. And this is him kind of stepping more into the lane of like, I make albums. And I think part of the critical acclaim is artists who focus on making the good album. That's where the critical acclaim comes from. Right. And so I like him stepping into that zone. This is not one of his top 3 albums to me.
I agree.
I think there's maybe 3 or 4 songs on here that make it into my like ultimate Tyler playlist. So, it's missing that. But I think there's so much he does right on this project that I feel like this score is adequate for him.
Yeah, I'm a fan of this album, but I'm gonna say that CHROMAKOPIA by Tyler the Creator, it's a 7 out of 10.
Wow.
I think it's
Cancelled.
I'm going to say it's his worst album since Flower Boy. It's the worst one of the new Tyler the Creator. I think the songwriting is great, but his rapping is like, the songs are not catchy in any sort of way.
Mhm.
Like very few of the songs are really like you want to rap along with them.
Yeah.
They are about things, really impersonal things, and I think that peer into Tyler the Creator is really interesting because I never thought we would be in this spot where we care about like his life in this significant fashion. I think the production is interesting. I like the militaristic vibe. I wish that was the entire thing instead of like the militaristic. It kind of like sandwiches the other parts where we've heard them before, which is new for Tyler the Creator. That's not something that we've really had to negotiate with. And I think that when it comes to like hooks and like actually the songs being catchy, not really there. Right? The songs are progressive. His music is always progressive, but there used to be things that you can like tether onto a certain motif, certain hook, something like that. His singing is okay. So it's a 7 out of 10. It's still good, but it's one of the worst new ones. It's one of the worst. It's the worst. It's the worst of the new Tyler the Creator era.
Yeah, I think
new one.
I think this album is raised up from it being left to center and his rapping.
Yeah.
I think those two things of like it's different from everything else raises it up a lot, and his rapping raises it up a lot. But I think outside of those two things, there's not as much in this album to grab onto.
Yeah.
And I think again, we'll see when we go into the new year. But I think 3 months from now, I want to see who's listening to this project still, who's talking about it still. Of course, there's a stands out there who this is the greatest piece of work we've seen in the past decade. But I want to see who's really listening to this project. Let us know in the comments. I'm interested to see like y'all Tyler stands. This is your time, okay? You've waited for this project to come out. Let us know your favorite song, what you rate the album, and kind of where does this album rank. I think that's to me like how I'm thinking about this project is everyone talking about this run Tyler's on, this run that Tyler's on, and I'm like, if we're including this in the run, then I feel like the run is getting worse.
Yeah, he's getting into a jog now.
Yeah. But a lot of people are saying like, oh, with this run, he's now top 2. And it's like, I don't know how you put out a worse project than the last 2 and we elevate you. You know, that's kind of where I'm like, the math is not mathing. I think I'm here.
A lot of artists, I will say from Flower Boy, Igor, Call Me If You Get Lost, and then The Estate Sale, that's crazy, the level of quality. And then this is, I would say, a drop off from those 4 projects, but it's not so much where we're like, damn, what's going on? It's just like, we've heard much better, and you're also rehashing some stuff now. So like, it's not a drastic drop off, but it is a drop off.
Yeah, it is a drop off, and like I think as well, this is again where everyone is coming into Flower Boy at Tyler. Like, that's the biggest thing to me is the context of, because to me, Wolf is a quality project. But again, people weren't there for Wolf. You know, people were like, he's still weird. I don't like his hat. I'm not in on this yet.
Why are there 2 of him on the cover?
You know, so I think that's a big part of the perception is where you come into the project. Like, we came into Drake right at the beginning. If you come into Drake at Views, maybe you look at his whole career differently than us who were there from So Far Gone.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people like that. So I think it's a big part of it. I'm excited to see what everyone thinks. Make sure you guys find us on the interwebs at Album Mode Pod, on Twitter at Album Mode Pod, on TikTok at Album Mode Pod, on Instagram. If you're listening to us on all your podcast platforms, leave us a rating and a review. 5 stars, not a single star less. And of course, on YouTube, like this video and make sure you're subscribed. And until next time, know yourself, know your worth.
Later days.